Hello and welcome to this introductory tutorial video for Buildfarm. If you've never heard of it, Buildfarm is an open source software application suite designed to facilitate remote caching and execution for users of the Google RE API, the primary client of which is the build tool Bazel. Buildfarm is hosted on GitHub, the link to which is provided in the description below. In this video, we're going to cover the basics of running a remotely cached and executed build with Bazel. I'm running today on Ubuntu 18.04, but any Linux distribution will work with this demonstration. We're going to be using Bazel 3.1.0 and the current head of Buildfarm's master branch. This version of Bazel will be used to run Buildfarm and demonstrate remote interactions. My machine also has GCC and bin utils installed for the default Bazel C++ toolchain. This video will follow along with the Getting Started page available from the Buildfarm wiki. Again, with the link available in the description below. First, we're going to start off in our example applications workspace. Here we have a single source file that is our target's main, and a build definition for our target binary, and an empty workspace definition to denote the top-level directory to Bazel. To ensure that things are working properly, let's run the application with Bazel run main. One thing to take note of in Bazel's output here is this message indicating the number of processes that ran as a part of this build and their nature. Here we ran 2 Linux sandbox processes locally in order to perform our compile and link. This line will provide verifications of our success as we transition through remote caching and execution. So to get started with Buildfarm, I'm going to switch to another terminal and start my Buildfarm server with the default example configuration provided in the repository. This will launch a server that Bazel can communicate with to store and retrieve action results, as well as the contents for those results in its content addressable storage. Now that we have Buildfarm running, we want to test our remote caching ability. I'm going to switch back to our application and clean. Since Bazel is designed to be incremental, and we want to inspire it to re-execute its actions, we will be cleaning throughout this video to ensure that we see the intended effects of remote interactions. Next, I'll add the flag remote cache and point it to our currently running Buildfarm server to my Bazel run command, which will tell Bazel to use our server for caching purposes. We've started our server on the local machine, but it could be anywhere in the world that my application build can contact it. And now our command has successfully printed out Hello World again. There's no change to the output here because Bazel does not indicate that there was a miss when only using the remote cache, and since we just started our server, the cache is empty. Watch what happens, though, when we clean and run our build command again. This time, take note of the process's info message. We now see that we've had 2 remote cache hits for our actions, indicating that our build was 100% served from the remote cache, and none of the executions required for those actions took place. Excellent! We have successfully tested the remote caching capability of Buildfarm. Now let's move on to remote execution. Buildfarm delegates the responsibility of remote execution of actions to specialized worker processes, with the intention that there can be many workers to distribute the load among a fleet of computers. Each worker takes the work it can process, executes it, and reports the result to be delivered to the client by the server. For starters, I'm going to restart our server instance so that we can have a clean slate where we will now miss the cache results from the previous build. Missing the cache in this case is intentional and will result in Bazel remotely executing our actions. To add remote execution capability to our Buildfarm, I'll switch to a third terminal and run our worker process, again with the provided default configuration from the Buildfarm repository. The worker we're using is the operation queue variety, which requests work from the server and reports its status and results when complete. The worker has printed out an initialization message, and now all we're waiting for is the work to arrive. I'm going to switch back to our application, clean once more, and run our application again, this time with remote executor pointing to our local build farm. This option tells Basil to talk to my local server for both remote caching and execution. It will upload inputs, including an action definition, and then request that the remote system execute the actions and deliver their results. We've succeeded once more, and this time our processes info line has changed to indicate that we ran two processes remotely. This build has now proven our ability to remotely execute these actions. There is some additional information about the work that our processes did in the output of both the server and the worker, indicating that the round trip from client to server to worker and back was completed successfully. I hope this was an informative introduction to the basics of remote execution, and that it might inspire you to join the growing user base for Buildfarm.